But overall, we'll be getting started right now, it looks like.
Absolutely, right now. Off to a good start.
Updated the privacy policy. Very nice. Very fitting for this time of year.
Indeed, and that does not seem too random anymore. I've seen that one almost every race.
Right, and looks like we get half magic.
Half magic is probably one of the best items you can start with. Its value is going to decrease the less time you have it. So having it for the entire game is wonderful.
Right. It looked like there was a blue crystal on Eastern, a green pendant in Desert, and a blue pendant up on Hera.
And hammer on Uncle. So not going to have any need for that magic for quite a little while. Hammer doing quite a bit of damage here. At least they can do their farming without having to worry about magic consumption. I always like when Eastern is a crystal. It makes it a little bit less of a risk to do an early Eastern dive, and a lot of times you don't really have too many places to go early game.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. The only thing to make that would even better is if you were to start with, say, the bow. You could just clear the dungeon instantly right off the back.
Yeah, absolutely. Bow is my favorite starting item. A couple reasons, but one of them is being able to do that Eastern full clear early on. Most people are comfortable sequence breaking the dark rooms.
Right, exactly. It's some of the most easily done dark rooms, I'd say, in the game. Pretty easily to get through. I think my favorite start for escape would have to be bombs. It shows, just based off pure execution, who was actually put in that time and effort on learning that.
That was my initial thoughts, that a bomb escape, for the same reasons that it showed off execution. But when it comes down to it, there's really only a couple places that you actually use them. So after a few minutes of practice, I'm not really sure anymore how much there is to show off.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Being in round 7, there's the people that have it down will have it down at this point in time.
But they did pick up the 3 bombs there in the chest, so they're good to go on bombs. And at this point, escape basically just becomes a matter of waiting out the clock while they execute.
Yeah, very true. Datlossit actually getting 2 quick hammer hits there, not getting smacked back by the ball and chain. Mikan does get hit, but overall, they're right neck and neck here still. And they both found a nice bottle of red goo there in Zelda's chest.
That's nice to have. It's always nice to pick up at least one safety item early on. Probably not going to need a red for quite a while. Hopefully, you don't want to waste it on only 3 hearts. But having the bottle lets you get your sick kid done on your first Kakariko trip, so it's one less thing to have to backtrack to.
Yeah, Ready and Sick Kid, definitely a nice thing to do early on. Never having to come back. Of course, that would leave 1 check in here, as well as potentially having to come back for Flute later anyways, with the Mad Batter in that play as well.
Yeah, the Dream Kakariko is getting money for the bottle vendor, an early Flute to activate a bottle, and the hammer and powder. You just get everything done. It's very rare, but it's just really awesome when it happens. Mikan there picking up 1 extra bomb, so he's got all the bombs he needs to do to get through Kakariko down to the bomb shop.
Very true. Only missing out on 1 bomb to do the race game. But of course, if they get enough rupees, can just buy bombs on the way out.
Yeah, definitely a lot of options for rupee farming, and still more for bomb farming. We have tree pools, we have bush crabs, we have lots of items. I think it's pretty rare that you don't exit Kakariko with at least enough money for the bottle vendor and 50 to buy bombs. There's so many chests.
Mikan actually getting very lucky here with rupee drops. Those 20s are showing up a lot in the drop pool. But of course, going back to pick up those 20 rupees is setting him back a smidge on the escape timer, but overall is going to come out with quite a few rupees.
Absolutely. Not really a major concern this early in the game. I think you're willing to trade a few seconds, especially for red rupees. Later in the game, you start cursing every big 20 that drops.
Very true. One of my favorite items in Escape, that mirror, but of course, when you get it at the very end, it doesn't do you any good, but always nice to have.
It's always a little fun to see people mirror. If you haven't walked out of Sanctuary yet and you use the mirror, it drops you out at the front of Hyrule Castle instead of out of the front of Sanctuary where it normally does when you mirror.
Right.
And it's always fun because sometimes people don't expect it and you get that weird where do I go moment.
Ooh, a shovel. That's also very nice to get to route into the Kakariko route because you can check the race game and instantly head over and check that shovel location.
Yeah, I think shovel is probably one of the the trolliest items. Shovel and mushroom. They're one item that leads to exactly one other item, so it's just a delayed item essentially. But if you're gonna have to do it, that's probably the best time to do it after race game, like you said.
Very true. And it looks like Datlossit's going to use the old route, I call it, checking the Lumberjack Cave here. It gives you the information on whether or not you need to do Aghanim right away, or if it's going to be delayed, etc. I notice a lot more people are doing what Mikan is doing and skipping it, because if you're going to check it, boots are needed anyways, you wait till then, or it's a last minute, I need to see what it is.
And there's definitely some value in that. If you get boots, then you're going to do bonk rocks, and at that point you can check it, so it's not super far out of the way. Finding the moon pearl there in the hideout, they're a glove away from Dark World access now.
Very good to point out, and with having just 50 rupees on the Lumberjack ledge, potentially having Aghanim ruled out soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd still recommend that people check that location to get the game knowledge. It's not a time-intensive check, and if it's progression items, you can really infer a lot of things by knowing what's there.
Very true.
But it absolutely in the end is a matter of personal preference.
Right. If it happens to be a progressional item, you can make that gamble towards Aghanim as soon as you possibly can. And of course, that lamp there that Mikan picked up is one of those items you need to go to Aghanim.
And Fire Rod and Blind Sight as well as the lamp, that's both of the fire sources. They are done with dark rooms 8 minutes in.
Some people just want to watch the world burn. But of course, when it's a blind guy, kind of hard.
Blue Boomerang as well there. The Blue Boomerang, the best boomerang. Get some nice swag stats. It lets you check our stun prize, which could be valuable.
Very true.
Especially if it's like a magic refill or something like that. But
yeah, it's always nice when it's either like a fairy or a full magic jar. It's just a wonderful experience.
I've seen races where one player knew the stun prize was like a fairy and the other opponent didn't, and it's just amazing because you get infinite health the entire game basically.
Right, exactly. And of course, that stun prize is for pretty much every enemy in the game, so...
Yeah, there are 2 stun prizes. This is something I point out because I didn't even know this was true until recently. There's a frozen stun prize and a non-frozen stun prize.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can use... Yeah, Ether or Ice Rod will give you a different stun prize than Hookshot or Boomerangs.
Interesting. Of course, those will require magic, but overall, if it's a good drop, it might be worth it.
Yeah, it's one that we typically don't see people check. A lot of people don't even check the regular stun prize, and until they accidentally stun something and find it.
Yeah, for me, it turns out that I check it pretty much as late in the game as possible by accident, but could always be a useful item.
So we have neither of the gloves, but both of the boomerangs. Yay, value.
Well, you did say we had the better one, so now we have both. People can choose what they want to use.
Well, the boomerangs do make menuing easier, and that's always a plus. Early game menu navigation is kind of like a mini game all in and of itself.
Right, exactly. Menuing is never fun, especially if you have to do something like a menu boss Argus. And if you're missing a few items in your inventory, it can make for a very difficult time.
So Mikan, not gambling on the race game, finds a sword up there and is going to have to backtrack. When you don't have a lot of items and you don't have the boots to make it quicker, a lot of players will tend to just say, I'm going to bomb the wall, I'm just going to take my chances. Both players, though, having the backtrack because they are not going to pass up that sword.
Very true. And that's the nature of this game. If you gamble it and it's something good, you've saved time. But if it's not something good, which I find more so often than not, it's not a useful item. But of course, both of them losing time here by checking first.
That's also variable based on your skill level, too. A less experienced player is going to consider even a heart piece, at that location to be something good, and
right,
they'll pick up. So, higher level players are more likely to just gamble at something that they're not going to get.
Yeah, definitely. And both runners here running towards the digging location, putting that shovel into good use early on. And just 50 rupees.
Just 50 rupees, but 50 rupees at this point in the game, not actually too bad.
That's very true. Gives them a little bit more towards their Zora money, or potentially Kiki.
Yeah, I think one of the worst things you can do in this game, especially if you don't have the gloves yet, is to make Zora your last location before Aga 2, and before Aga 1, and then go into the Dark World and have no money for Kiki. That can be a very, very difficult position to find yourself in. Without the gloves, your farming options are very limited.
Very, very true. A lot of rupee locations hidden behind the gloves. Of course, with those gloves as well, it would give you access to the Houlihan room, as it's called, which has quite a few rupees in it.
So Mikan did give us our look at his stun prize. It's a small magic pot. That's definitely still useful to have, and there are locations where, especially like Ice Palace is a good example, where the magic pots aren't quite as plentiful. If it's less of a problem with half magic, but without half magic, knowing that that's the stun prize is very useful.
Very true. I mean, can't complain about magic in general for drops. When you use so much of it during the run, it can allow you to be a little bit more aggressive with, say, your fire rod here as well. Early blue mails, nice to see. Of course, when you're running around with a low heart count, if you were to potentially go to the Dark World earlier on, the blue mail will come in handy.
They are off to a nice start on health at 7 hearts already. Blue mail, giving them a 50% damage reduction on most damage types, so they're effectively at 14 hearts with green mail. That's enough to be pretty comfortable at this particular level. But I'll say of all the items that we've gotten, I think the mirror is probably the best thing to have early on. It just makes your routing so much easier. You're going to get swords, you're going to get the hammer eventually, but the mirror is just the best convenience item.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Now, Datlossit using the Sonic Sprite, when he picked up the blue mail, I think all that changed is he got darker. Is that true? Oh, that's a very nice flipper find.
Yeah, I didn't, I don't really admit, I don't notice the subtle things like that. I tend to, if it's not a progression item, I tend not to notice it.
Yeah, I just barely caught it out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, did it change at all? So then I had to rewatch it, and it's like, oh, I think it just got darker.
It does seem darker.
Overall, that flipper find is very nice to find there in the Ice Red Cave, because you can then start routing in the Lake Hylia stuff right away. Of course, that now puts Zora in logic, and without any sort of rupees here, The randomizer doesn't put rupees into logic, so...
Yeah, I think at this point, a lot of people coming out of Ice Rod Cave with the Moon Pearl would probably set up a fake flipper and check some of these locations. Finding the the King of Samaria there on Hobo is one of those things that, oh, it's a nice sequence break. If you didn't have flippers, but having them, just puts everything in logic. I think they would probably do these anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. It just allows you to get a little bit more in logic, I say. Of course, sometimes some people will get lost in their sequence breaks, so they won't know how to route back to where the flippers may be.
Managing sequence breaks, I think, is really, so, oh, there we go. Gloves in the waterfall. That would have been another thing that would have just been absolutely wonderful to have sequence broken, because your opponent may not have done it. If those gloves had saved you an agate trip, then you could say, wow, I saved a massive amount of time.
Yeah, that's very true. Because of course, with only one other glove being in the game, that would make it so flippers is either locked behind a glove or in the light world. And that gives you a decent amount of information there as well.
And so we saw that the bottle was on the Zora's River ledge. They already have a bottle, so no need to pick that up immediately. And Mikan just saying, I'm done. Might pick it up later on if they come back here with Zora money, or they just might never pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, it is just another bottle. Of course, it can be useful later on, but as for now, it's not necessarily needed. And going off to Hype Cave, everyone get your bets in chat. Between 1 and 10, is it going to be hype or not?
I'm feeling 0 hype, I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, I can agree on that, just because they have a lot of items already and a lot of places to go. Alright, I think I'll save... Oh, there's 1 rupee off 500. I was going to say I'd save my, my hype meter, I guess, until Zora check, maybe.
That is quite a bit of health. 2 full hearts there, and 300 rupees gets them pretty close to Zora. So I can't give it a 0. I'll give it a 2.
Right, exactly. Looked like Turtle Rock and Pod were our red crystals this time around, and the red pendant over on Thieves Town.
Pendant Thieves Town, that's never what you want to see, because you feel like you almost have to go in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's such an easy dip. And of course, most of the time, if it's a pendant, you're going to check that first floor. There's 4 chests, and one of them is guaranteed that boss key. If you get 3 of the items out, I think most people would just dip. 2 or less of the items in that first little bit, I think a lot of people will continue on. But it depends how much time you want to sink into a pendant.
Well, with the mirror, it's not so bad. You can check the first 4 and then mirror out, as opposed to death warping. So that has some advantage. Question from chat. This is always something that we always forget to point out. What are the red crystals? In the vanilla game, there are 2 crystals, Ice Palace and Misery Mire, I think.
Yes.
That when you complete those 2 dungeons, unlocks the orange bomb at the bomb shop, which lets you get into the pyramid to get your golden sword and silver arrows. In Randomizer, the dungeons that have those crystals are, of course, randomized, and those are the red ones. So in this case, Turtle Rock and Palace of Darkness, when you complete those, you'll be able to purchase the orange bomb.
Yeah, very true. And of course, the only other dungeon giving an item for completing it is the one that holds the green pendant as well. Looks like Mikan forgot to pick something up and was waiting for Catfish to show himself.
The Catfish demands tribute.
And just the heart piece, gonna say no to that. And now with Zora money, Ken Route and Zora here. So I like that play from Mikan. Datlossit going in Skull Woods, heading right for Mothula as well. So overall, both players doing what is available, so...
So, I'll be interesting. We'll have to ask Mikan if this was his intended route. We interviewed somebody the other day who did the hype cave directly to Catfish route, and it seems to be like that's a new route that certain players have developed. Normally, you see hype cave over to digging game.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see if Catfish was his intended destination, or if the 300 rupees changed his routing on the fly.
Yeah, I think it was just that 300 rupees changing the route. Because of being up here already, skipping out on it because not having the rupees, I can 100% get on board with changing the route on the fly like that. It just makes the most sense in that situation. And I mean, when you can route something in with Catfish, it just makes for a much more enjoyable trip.
Absolutely, and he gave us a pyramid check as well. Didn't pick up the item, so nothing of value. I missed what it was, but we're getting a lot of knowledge here with Datlossit doing the northern route and Mikan doing the southern route.
Very true. And because Mikan had actually skipped out on the Lumberjack check, going to check it now, this will give him the full knowledge on whether AGA is required or not.
Well, I guess that he's probably going to head up to Death Mountain and is routing this in now because he's so close.
Very true.
Has the ability to full clear the light side of Death Mountain with that mirror and hammer. Be able to get up to Hera and then off to the eastern side. If we pick up the mids up here, then I'll be able to do the dark chests as well.
Yeah,
some of them anyway.
That's one of the best parts about it, is there's so many items here that second glove has potential of being here. So if you can route in both whilst finding the gloves halfway through, it's a really good feeling.
But while Mikan is doing all these overworld checks, Datlossit is racking up some crystals. He has his first crystal already, only 20 minutes in.
Yeah, definitely very fast on the crystal hunt there. I mean, when you're given everything you need to do a crystal, it doesn't hurt to get it out of the way sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done with Skullwoods now. Maybe we'll see Bumper Cave Graveyard Ledge, or maybe it'll go directly down into the Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, very true. A lot of options here. Looking like doing this northern route here. Of course, you have Graveyard Ledge as well to do. Looks like just bombs on Bumper Ledge.
Yeah, and looks like that's as far as he's going to go. Not giving us the Graveyard Ledge.
It is always nice to route in the Graveyard Ledge when you have boots, so you can do like the Bonk Rocks as well as the King's Tomb at the same time.
Yeah, if you get early boots, that is nice to route in. Fortunately, once you get the Titan's Mitts, you can check the King's Tomb in the light world.
Yeah.
So it's not so much of a detour. I think a lot of people like to check. They'll do Graveyard Ledge, and if you have the flippers, that's also another good opportunity to continue on and do Catfish. Datlossit without the money, you might be thinking about that as well.
Right. So speaking of those Titan's Mitts, Datlossit found them in the C-shaped house.
Well, that's very nice. You'll be able to... Sorry.
It was pretty much the exact moment you had said Titan's Mitt too, so it was very entertaining.
Oh, cool. I was watching Mikan's side. Another sword for Datlossit too.
Early masters are definitely nice to find. That's all you necessarily need to beat Ganon at the end. Of course, a tempered or a buttered would be preferable.
With everything that Datlossit has open to him at this point, I would not be surprised at all if we do just see the first 4 chests here, unless it's just all dungeon items.
Yeah, that's very true. There's so many things open at this point in the game that a full dive in here isn't fully necessary, but there's a few things you would like to have.
Yeah, it's also Thieves Town. You know, it's not Turtle Rock. It's pretty easy to get back to if you want to come back here later.
So Mikan ended up finding the powder, so now we have knowledge on the location of all of the fetch quests, and ends up finding Bombos in Paradox Cave as well.
Paradox Cave, definitely more hype than Hype Cave so far.
Right, with both Turtle Rock and Misery Mire being crystal dungeons, we'll need a few of those medallions. Of course, Bombos could be for both of them. You never know. Also finds a bottle of blue goo, which is always nice to have around. It's a full heal as well as a full magic.
So my guess is that Mikan is heading into the Village of Outcasts area now as well. He'll be able to complete that powder immediately, or once he picks up the Titan's mitts, he'll be able to route that in with the whole blacksmith's chain, which I expect Datlossit is probably going to do after Thieves Town. It looks like he's committed to doing a full clear at this point.
Right. Chat pointing out that there is a sword on the floating island as well. So I give that a little bit of an advantage on Datlossit's side, having those Titan's mitts before heading up the mountain.
Absolutely. I did miss that, though. So thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out. That is going to be Tempered Sword for Datlossit by the time he gets up there. And Mikan will probably pick up the Master Sword as well.
Very true. It's not too far out of the way. Of course, if you're heading up to, like, say, Turtle Rock, might be a nice pickup to get. It makes Trinex a much easier fight as well.
Yeah, I think if you already have Tempered when you get up there, you probably skip it. But anything less than that, you absolutely get it. And they have everything they need. I mean, they have the mirror, and they'll have the mitts on their next trip up. So I can't imagine them skipping it.
Right, very true. Yeah, Butter Sword doesn't add too much over the Tempered Sword, so I can definitely agree on skipping it if you already have a Tempered Sword.
Yeah, it's always fun to see what players think, the pickup threshold for Butter is. If they find it in a chest, obviously, they got it, and that's nice to have. If it's in, like, Checkerboard Cave or, Pig Cave, something where they have to walk a few inches, they'll get it. But anything beyond that, they don't get it. And
right.
Yeah, Ice Rod there in the bottom of Thieves Town makes Thieves Town a required dip.
Very true. So it's actually really nice to do this full dive in that case. It's also very nice to find Ice Rod early in a seed that you need to do Turtle Rock. That way you're not diving Turtle Rock for a potential double dip.
Yeah, with a mirror, they're able to loop in Mimic Caves. So once they get to the point where they have the required medallion, they'll be able to do a Turtle Rock full clear. And if both players have Tempered by the time they get up there, it's not a difficult fight at all, regardless of your health with Tempered and Half Magic.
Yeah, very true. It's really scary to think of doing a Turtle Rock clear at 30 minutes in, but at the same time, if you have the items and you're already up there, why not, right?
Yeah, I think you just expect that you're gonna have to. I mean, if you attempt to save Turtle Rock for last, occasionally that gamble is going to work out, but I think most of the time, the clearing of a crystal dungeon that you can full clear is better than trying to be absolutely optimal in your route.
Right, exactly. The way I've done most of my play throughout this logic is if you can do a crystal dungeon, you might as well just get it out of the way. It could hold what you need, and if not, then you can search elsewhere.
Absolutely, and that's something that I think you learn as you advance throughout the skill levels. When you're a beginning player, you basically just kind of go in a straight line, full clear everything. Eventually, you start optimizing routes, and you look at, well, I'm gonna check everything in the most efficient way possible, but that leads you to, you find like, oh, I 100%ed every seed I play, and later on you find that, okay, well, if I can never check a location, that's faster than checking it in the optimal way.
Oh, 100%. If you're checking everything possible all the time, yeah, you'll get better and better at your routing, but at the same time, your time isn't going to be as low as it possibly could be.
That early red potion, absolutely coming in the value. A little frustrating when you use the red potion and then don't take any more damage.
Yeah, very true. Of course, you get a full heal as soon as you collect this crystal anyways.
I don't blame Mikan for wanting to be safe there.
Right, it's definitely a nice safety to have. If you were to accidentally hit a spike or something, it would be all over.
Yeah, I think the fact that an item never checked is faster than an item optimally routed is one of the most difficult concepts to get across, especially in commentary. Saying things like, well, I can route Catfish and Zora together. Yes, that's great, but if I never go back there, that's even better.
Right, exactly. And speaking of those medallions needed for Turtle Rock, there's our second medallion. So long as it's not Ether, then we have potential of opening that up right away.
And situations like that are absolutely why having the mirror early is such a useful item. Datlossit was able to immediately turn the blacksmith in and then take the chest instead of the blacksmith on the world tour. Check key 45 instead of having to backtrack it. Very nice item. It's completely separate from opening up locations like Swamp Palace.
Definitely. Swamp Palace is also a crystal, but of course, when you don't have hookshot at this point in time, probably a place you're going to avoid unless you have to. It could always be a vanilla hookshot, but with so many other places to check, might as well get those out of the way as well now. And Mikan now doing that check on Bumper Ledge, finding those 3 bombs there.
So Mikan giving us the graveyard ledge check as well, it seems. And I think this is Datlossit's first trip over to Hype Cave. So he might continue on and do Pyramid, Catfish, and Zora after getting, well, he has the money now, but he's going to get even more. Or he might go in the pod, or he might just go right up the Death Mountain. I want to see what's in Graveyard Ledge.
Yeah, very true. A one-off location holding 1 item. Doesn't take too long to get here, but at the same time, it is just one simple thing. Could be exactly what you need, or the exact opposite. And just the heart piece this time around.
That's good. Buying bombs, but dropping a few first.
Very, very interesting. Showing off a little bit of firework action. And now Datlossit is having a few different choices here of places to go. Oh, this is the Ice Palace dive.
Very interesting. A little bit surprised to see this before the Light and Dark Death Mountain plays, but this follows it's Crystal Dungeon. You can full clear, so it's absolutely a very good play regardless.
Right, and if the keys are aligned in such a way, you can get through this dungeon really optimally by skipping a few rooms even. And Mikan getting that Master Sword from the chess game.
Very nice. So he will also have tempered when he makes his way up to Death Mountain to do the dark side.
Datlossit using some bomb strats here on the Pengators. It's like playing air hockey, just hit them into the bomb.
Yeah, for some reason they just have ridiculous amounts of health. You can kill them with, like 30 sword slashes or the hook shot of all things.
Yeah, I find that very interesting that hookshot will one-shot them, but takes a billion slashes to kill.
So Mikan having an interesting gameplay here. We were talking about the ability to optimally never check a certain location. Graveyard Ledge was a pretty high time investment for that one spot. Probably, if it's probably a gamble that his opponent was less likely to do. Could have paid off, but in this case didn't. Thieves Town, that has the ice rod, so we know that's required, and doesn't look like Mikan's going to be heading in there, at least in the short term.
Yeah, it's very true. No one really likes diving in pendant dungeons as is, but of course when they pay off like it does in this seed, it is definitely required.
Yeah, nice first try bomb jump from Datlossit.
Making it look very easy, in which it is decently easy. It's a few tries, of course, to start out, but overall not too difficult to manage. And Datlossit using some bomb strats again there.
If you have a good controller,
Yeah, I
it'd be
definitely
easy to
have
walk
that.
off. The left right isn't too hard, but getting the 2 pixels from the bomb is a little bit tricky.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people can line it up with their sword. Some people line it up off of the head of the sprite they're using, etc. Depending on what sprite you're using, that works, but sword is always a nice one. And doing another bomb jump there.
And we'll see another one coming up as well. Without the hook shot, Datlossit is going to have to bomb jump to get over to the right side.
Right, exactly. I would assume that's pretty much why Datlossit went and bought a ton of bombs, is going to be using a lot here.
He didn't want too many bombs, though, so he did get rid of a couple.
That's true. That's true. Now, what's interesting about that bomb jump is there's actually multiple different ways to set it up. The way Datlossit did it there is face left and go as far down as you want, or as far down as you can, and just place the bomb. It'll knock you over. The other way is if you were to face up, you hold yourself as far left on that block as you can, you go as far down as possible, place the bomb, and then you just nudge yourself to the right. There's actually a lot of pixels you can go, so there is no fear of falling off either. And so long as you've moved to the right even just slightly, it'll knock you across.
Datlosit's been setting these up with the sword spin techniques. That one in particular, if you have boots, you can set up with an aborted hammer dash, which always looks pretty cool. There's a lot of these bomb jumps have many options to set them up.
Yeah, overall, it's routing this dungeon without hookshot ends up not being too bad in the long run.
Yeah, we didn't find any items there on the right-hand side, but if we had found something, we could have learned where the hookshot could not have been by finding what potentially was hookshot blocked.
Right, exactly. Now with pretty much everything done here in ice, we'll be heading off to Cold Stairs shortly.
So here's our first Aegina's Cave check for Mikan. Is one of these out-of-the-way, early accessible locations.
Right, exactly. With only, say, the boots or the flute would make this check a lot faster. But at this point in time, not having those in hand, or on foot, I should say.
Indeed, yeah. This is another one of those locations. Wow, hookshot. Nice find.
That is a very, very nice item to find.
I don't know the accuracy of this. I did hear a commentator say in a race the other day that an analysis of some seeds has shown that there's a 17% chance of progression being there now in version 29. Like I said, I don't know what the accuracy of that is, but I have seen a Genius Cave pay off quite a bit.
Yeah, overall in this version, I've seen it pay off more times than not. And that loss of finding silver arrows down in Ice Palace, another nice pickup there.
That's a nice to have, but if Mikan ultimately ends up go moding ice, the time he saves looking for those items will definitely make up for the time spent getting those silvers.
Yeah, I can definitely agree on that. Silverless versus silver arrows, depending on how much time you're searching for items here in ice, would equal about that amount of time on the Ganon fight itself.
So, Mikan, we're gonna at least see our Turtle Rock medallion now. It might open it up. Probably, it'd be interesting to see whether he goes in.
Right, without the ice rod, would be a very unfortunate turn of events there, because you'd get all the way to the bottom and not find it.
Yeah, I think if you have the ice rod and you don't have the fire rod, typically you go in because you can be fire rod locked pretty quickly. But
right, exactly.
the other way around, and he's opting not to go in, at least yet, which we know is the right decision.
Yeah, and if you blinked, you missed it. Cold Stare is already dead. Datlossit used a very nice technique there, locking the Cold Stare puffs in the corner. And now we will get our Super Bunny Cave here, finding ourselves the My First Shield, the Fisher Price.
Yeah, I think Datlossit is heading up to Death Mountain as well. Without the hook shot, Mikan is able to check 3 more chests up here than Datlossit will be able to check.
Well, without the boots, it'll be 4, but...
Good point. 4 more chests.
Overall, that one chest not coming too big and handy anyways, even with boots.
I'm so used to... I'm picturing the map trackers in my mind where it has 1 item and then 3 items as 2 separate checkboxes.
Yeah, very true. And Mikan now going to go head off to get the Tempered Sword here on the floating island.
Very nice value. And we got to remember, Mikan knew this was up here as well, so that kind of made coming back up here a much higher priority. So I think seeing the Turtle Rock play is less likely. This could have just been mostly a sword trip.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, you also have Hera up here as well. Of course, being a pendant, but there is 2 items to be held inside.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Not good.
Oh. So, depending what you get here, overall, it's guaranteed it's going to be double dip. But, of course, Ice Rod being at the bottom of Thieves Town, Mikan is doing a dive here that is not needed at this point in time. Of course, can find items that they need for other dungeons, but as for now...
Yeah, it's fun to go, oh my god, it's the end of the world, but it really isn't that bad. If he finds, say the bow or the flute, as long as the progression isn't on Trinex, which he's not going to be able to get to Trinex, he'll be able to get everything else. And if he just has to come back here later on his final trip up the mountain just to kill Trinex, I think it's like a minute and a half or something extra. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Overall, to get through T-Rock when you've already cleared it out is a very fast trip. You can skip a lot of the things throughout the dungeon, so...
Yeah, and you have to gamble sometimes on certain locations. Turtle Rock without the ice rod is not that bad of a gamble. I'd say if you didn't have the ice rod and the mirror, that would be a little bit more risky. But he's only leaving the Trinex location behind.
Yeah, that's very true. Now Datlossit getting to do the Spiral Cave in the slowest manner possible due to not having boots.
Yeah, Spiral Cave, Walk of Shame.
Oh, even turning back for the single bomb. So at least for us, we'll get to make note of what is here inside of TR.
Chain Chop's being fairly cooperative today.
Yeah, that's definitely probably one of my least favorite rooms. You can get a lot of damage racked up very fast. And there is the Bombos medallion for Datlossit.
So that's going to give Datlossit Turtle Rock access, and there's no reason for him not to go in and full clear that dungeon.
Very
So
true.
we'll get early information on the items from Mikan, but we'll get full information when Datlossit goes in there.
Very true.
Just in case there's an item on Trinex.
Yeah, when you have, like, Datlossit will obtain the Tempered Sword here on the mountain. So when you have everything you need to finish the dungeon, it's might as well get it done and over with now. And with 11 hearts and blue mail, I'd say it's a decently easy clear.
Absolutely. There are a lot of anti-fairies in this dungeon, and he has the powder as well, so that's a lot of health refill potential. And Tempered Sword, half magic, is going to make the boss a fairly trivial fight.
Very true. Yeah, Datlossit going to be routing in the North Dark World here. Of course, can open up TR whilst up here. It's one of the main reasons for doing it this way as well, I'd say.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get any of the 4 chests in Hookshot Cave, but fortunately for him, no progressions hiding there.
Right. Of course, there is that Tempered Sword up on the floating island, but with pulling out Samaria here, looks like going to be skipping out on that for now.
That is indeed a shame.
Right, Master Sword Trinex is never fun, so we'll have to opt into Hammer, I'd say, to make that even on that Tempered Sword. But overall, could work out with skipping it for this time being, and check it later when you get the hookshot itself.
Well, you can get the sword without having the hookshot, so
Yeah,
I wonder if he just didn't see it, or if he's just really confident with Master Sword or Hammer Trinex and just he'll get it on the way out.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is, like, when you skip 4 chests there inside Hookshot Cave, wait until you get Hookshot to check, or to go get the sword, I'd say. Because then you only have to enter once.
Yeah, he opened up the portal at Turtle Rock. It is time spent to walk over to Hookshot Cave to get the item, and then to walk back to Turtle Rock. If that time is longer than he'll save in Turtle Rock by having it, then it makes sense to get it later.
Yeah, that's how I see it myself. Mikan now down at the bottom of Turtle Rock here, with 4 chests left, one of them being a key. And I'm not sure if they have the compass yet themselves or not.
Yeah, hopefully he'll switch over to Canterburna, and we'll get a quick look at his inventory when he does. All right, so he has the big key, the map, so he's missing the compass.
Right, so with 3 items being left in the dungeon, Trinex could potentially hold one of those, but we'll at least get to see 2 of them here.
All right, there's a compass, so Trinex does have an item.
Red mail and 50 rupees from the Laser Eye Bridge.
That's a little bit unfortunate. You'd really love to walk out of there with a bow or a flute or something that gives you solid progression. At this point, it's Yeah, it's just it's definitely a time loss.
Yeah, I can agree on that part, but now looking like Swamp is the play here, having Hookshot in hand, can access all 6 items in that dungeon.
Yeah, Swamp is a great play. Another one of those dungeons that people, have psychological impediment to going here, and absolutely can cost you. It's a great item dense location, and people need to get over it. Get over it, I think.
Yeah, like, I mean, a go mode Swamp is definitely a very nice play, but at the same time, when there's 6 items here and you're searching for something, it can hold exactly what you need sometimes.
So what we're really looking over here, as far as viewers, we want to know what's on Trinex. If Trinex has a progression item, that is going to be very, very bad for Mikan because he's not going to come back here until he really absolutely has to, most likely. If it's just garbage, then Mikan is really only out like a minute and a half by doing this double dip TR.
Yeah. Well, it'll depend when they also go back and check out Thieves Town. It being a pendant dungeon, it's not somewhere you'd want to opt into going and checking with having access to a lot of other things.
Yeah, I think even if they do check, like even once they check Pendant Thieves Town and get the Ice Rod, I think that they're still probably more likely to check almost everywhere else before just going back to Trinex. Though, maybe they'll go up there just to pick up the crystal.
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. Of course, when it is a crystal, it is always nice to just do that one as your last dungeon, because then you can just head over straight to Ganon's Tower at the end.
Yeah, it definitely falls under one of those like worst case scenario type of things. It's a tough choice to make.
Right, and of course it's also a 5/6 crystal at the end of it too, so it is possible for, say, the flute to be locked behind that.
Well, that's a good point. I had forgotten about that, and that makes it a little bit more likely you're going to go back up there and risk, another climb up the mountain in order to get those additional Pyramid Fairy items.
And Mikan gonna opt to doing the left side swamp here first. I like this play because there is 2 things locked on that side, whether that be a dungeon item or an item you need for progression. But at the same time, it's nice to wrap that in early if you're already going to be full clearing it.
Yeah, if you're gummoting, you just do the back. If you're looking for one item, a lot of people will do the back and reluctantly do the left. If you're committed that you're going to do a full clear anyway, then left first is definitely fastest.
Right, so the blue mail made Sonic darker. The red mail goes. I don't even know what this form is called. It's it's from the Chaos Emerald, I believe, but.
I don't know the Sonic form, but I can definitely say that this time I see the color difference. I'm not sure about the darker blue, but red, I can tell the difference here.
Right.
Super Cyan Sonic, chat says.
I'm gonna say that's wrong, but because that is Dragon Ball Z, or I should say Dragon Ball in general, but. And Fire Rod dealing damage to the ice head can just set a blaze to it.
So no value left side swamp, and we are going to find out what this last Trinex item is right now.
Overall, that was a fantastic fight there.
progression or not. We get the bow. Oh my
Oh,
god.
that will
No.
come in very big.
Yeah,
Now
that
you can
falls under
route
worst
in.
case scenario.
You can route in both Pod and Eastern at the same time. Full clear those. At this point in time, I think we're missing the flute and potential ether. Of course, Mikan still needing to go, or not Mikan, sorry, Datlossit needing to go and get that hook shot still.
Well, if he picks up the flute, then I can definitely see him heading over to, clear the mire area, and that would include an Aegeus cave check. So it really depends on, how quickly the flute becomes available. If he does a pod Eastern combo and the flute's in there, then I think the hook shot is basically just falls into his normal route.
And with Datlossit pulling up bombs there, is going to go pick up the Tempered Sword at the floating island.
So the issue with the bow, and I always, whenever I'm asked what my favorite uncle item is in the beginning of the game, I say it's the bow. And it's because prior to Ganon's, so it only locks 8 items in the game. 4 in the top of Ganon's Tower, Armos Knight's Helmasaur, and the 2 right side items in Palace of Darkness. If you sequence break those 2 items in Palace of Darkness, then it's only blocking 2 items pre-GT. So I think it's a lot more likely for Mikan to dip into Pod and Eastern looking for the bow than it would be to go back up to kill Trinex to get it, even if he gets the Ice Rod. That's just how bad the bow is.
Yeah, I can agree on that part too. It is a very far off location now with already doing that TR dive. And of course having to do most of Thieves Town in order to get that Ice Rod because it's down at the bottom. Overall, it's a decent time sink to have done TR at this point in time. But you can't blame them at that point either because there is a lot of items there that you could obtain.
No, I absolutely, if Mikan goes into, Pod and Eastern, I think mathematically that's going to absolutely be the right play. That's where the odds are. That's where the item density is.
Yeah.
But just given where the bow is, unfortunately, in this particular seed, it's probably at the single worst place it can be at this point.
Yeah, the amount of time before you would end up heading back to TR that you would probably do checks on everything possible. Mikan gonna make that Ice Palace dive here, and looks like Datlossit is gonna head over and do Swamp.
Or not Swamp. Pyramid Pod, maybe.
Oh, that is definitely a possibility.
Without the flute to get over to 5, I guess this is a good way to get over to Pod, because it lets you route the pyramid in, or just go directly to Pod.
Right. We've not seen Sahasra's closet either, have we?
No, neither runner has been to the eastern area at all. They don't have the green pendant, so there's only 3 items in here. We get 3 items in the closet, 3 in Eastern Palace, and then 5 in Palace of Darkness. That allows us going to be able to get all of those.
Right, and with Pod being a 5/6 crystal as well, that will unlock 2 more on top of it.
Yeah, that's a good reason not to go to Pyramid first, because you're going to have to go back there.
And looks like Sahashala is hiding a book in his closet.
That's nice to find in that order. When he goes to Swamp, he'll be able to route in the Bombos tablet if he wants to.
Yeah, very true.
Bombos tablet might also lead him to do an Aegeus check earlier than he otherwise might, considering that they're adjacent locations.
Now I fully expect Mikan to do a full clear of ice here as well, just due to searching for so many things. So we'll eventually get those silver arrows.
100% agree. We'll see the full clear here. After this, the question is, he'll either go back and do a full clear of Feastown, but I think most likely he'll probably do the pod Eastern, Sosh Hut combo, simply due to the item density.
Right, with a lot of items to be held, that looks to be like the play to make at this point in time, without the information on Bow. And Datlossit doing pretty much my favorite route through pod here. When you get a key, you hope for a key in that next chest, and then you can bomb the floor here and head off towards the bow locked area. Just saves for a lot of mirroring all the time. And Datlossit finding that big key makes it nice and easy for when you go for the back half as well. Can have that big chest looted. And I expect nothing less from Mikan here, checking everything possible. And we'll see what the bow locks back here in pod right away. Of course, you can do a fancy potion glitch as well to unlock the screen and make it so that you can move the mimics off screen, which will then unlock the door. You would hold left in the hallway before the mimics, and that will do the trick. Holding left and drinking a potion, I should say. And now Datlossit going to be able to head into the back side of pod here. And Mikan almost ready to go fight Cold Stare. I think one item left to be held, which is those silver arrows on the right-hand side here. Is it legal? The potion glitch you're meaning, I'm assuming? Yes, it is. You're allowed to use it in NMG and such. Considering it doesn't allow you to access Helmasar King, so otherwise you'd be able to skip the bow in that sense. So it is legal for this case because it doesn't allow you to finish the dungeon, I'd say. And there's the silver arrows from Mikan. Datlossit now going to be doing the dark room here. Alright, Mikan now heading off for the Cold Stare fight. And Datlossit now going for Helmasar King as well.
Helmasar King going to be a really nice fight with the Tempered Sword and the Silvers. Probably not even going to need the Silver Arrows.
Right, a few slashes to the gem will do the trick, and almost easier to do the slashes than aiming that bow.
Yeah,
depending
absolutely.
on how much they move.
You know what? Even if he stood still, I think a lot of people would say just the menu time wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta say, these runners really lucked into not having to do any dark rooms this seed.
Yeah, overall lamp is a very nice item to find. It can ease your mind a bit if you're not totally prepped on a dark room per se.
Yeah, I have no doubts, at 5-1 that you're capable of doing all the dark rooms. Even more so with a fire rod to help you out. But it's just easier not to.
I can agree with that wholeheartedly.
And it looks as if Mikan is doing what we predicted based on item density, and it absolutely makes a lot of sense. Most players do go for item density. That's your best odds. This is going to lead him to a Eastern Pod double dip, unfortunately.
And if you blinked, you missed it. Helmusar King has gone down.
So nothing of value in Palace of Darkness, it looks like. Unless there was something early I missed.
No. Overall, nothing of value here, but Crystal in hand could always be on the Pyramid Fairy.
Crystal and the second 5/6 crystal.
And now this will be a very quick dive here for Datlossit.
Oh, interesting play for Mikan. Not dipping into Pod and Eastern.
I think debating it with finding that book there inside Sasha's closet that opens up both of the tablets as well as Desert is now a play to make.
Very interesting. This, I don't know if it's gonna work out well for him because he still might go back to Pod and Eastern before going into Thieves Town, and then even Thieves Town and then going back to Trinex. So this might just be delaying things.
Oh.
Boots there in Eastern though, that's a nice find.
So those have been available to us since the start.
Yeah, it's always the case, isn't it?
That would have sped things up quite a lot.
Intentional fun?
Very true. When you're Sonic, you definitely have to go fast, so nice that Sonic can now run.
So, as a recap, the hookshot was in a Genus Cave, and the ice rod was in Thieves Town. The attic of Thieves Town, I think.
The basement by the blind inner cell.
Okay. Yeah, definitely deeper into Thieves Town, not the first floor.
And Mikan is making that desert play here.
Desert may be boots locked. We'll have to wait and see what the first item is.
Very true. So now at this point, we are looking for the flute and ether for us to know where everything are. Of course, we still don't know what Maya requires, so ether might not be on our list.
Well, I have no doubt that Datlossit is going to find the hookshot. The book is going to lead him there, whether it's for Desert or Bombo's tablet. Something is going to lead him over into that area, especially with the boots now. The question is really the ice rod for Mikan when that shows up.
Very true. Of course, with having so many locations open to Datlossit now, whether or not they go there first, or if they decide to head over to Swamp first, of course, we'll end up near that Bombo's tablet, so maybe an early Agena check could be possible. You never know.
I would not be surprised if at this point Datlossit comes out of here and does the Pyramid Fairy and Pyramid, maybe even, I think he still has Catfish Zora left to do, or did he do Zora?
I believe they did Zora. but maybe I'm mistaken.
So the three items on the pyramid at least make sense. At that point, a gamble into Swamp Palace without the hook shot is not that bad a play. I could absolutely see that. And he'll be kicking himself if he finds the hook shot immediately afterwards, but that's the way it goes.
Right, and now I believe this is going to be that Thieves Town play for Mikan, so going in the right direction now.
This is really good for Mikan. Not the most obvious play, I would say, just because I tend to think that you go to Crystal Dungeons, but there are 4 items here, so as far as item density is concerned, it's not a bad option, and it's the right item that we know.
Yeah, exactly. And Datlossit doing exactly what you were saying, heading up to the Pyramid Ferry here.
So the one thing that you always have to ask when you find something like the boots in a Sphere 1 location is, is the runner going to feel behind thinking that their opponents had the boots for a whole hour? And the answer to that is always yes. You always assume that your opponent did everything perfectly.
Very true. I mean, if your opponent had boots 50 minutes ago, you never know where they could be now.
Yeah, that's a good, 3 or 4 minutes at least saved on just movement time. And then then there's extra locations that they could have routed in more efficiently, like the Bonk Rocks and King's Tomb that you're double dipping essentially. So I think you definitely feel behind if you're Datlossit, despite everything else coming up in his favor.
And there's a magic cape. Not that that's going to come necessarily in handy. Of course, can make the Ganon fight a lot easier, I'd say.
So with the mirror out, I guess this is going to be a Catfish Zora, so he probably hasn't been up here. I know Mikan went up here because he picked up that extra bottle.
So now I'm going into the I wonder where that flute can be at this point in time. I'm almost thinking it's in Hera.
Well, we couldn't do Desert because that was boots locked, so it could be in. We got one item, so it could be on Landmo or the other item. Well, the other one was the big key, so it could be one item in Desert, the green pendant. We haven't seen Spike Cave, both tablets.
Bombos was done, I believe, on I think it was Mikan's side when heading over to the desert area. At least I heard explosions, but might have missed it myself.
I definitely missed that. I stepped away for a second.
Datlossit now going to do the Catfish Zora, so... And there's Ice Rod for Mikan.
So that's a tough moment. You have to decide, do I finish the Thieves Town and maybe find the bow or the flute? Or, is Ice Rod enough? That's a tough gamble to make. Mikan, choosing correctly, isn't going to know it until he watches the VOD back later.
Yeah, heading straight to Trinix, I say, is best play here, just due to getting the bow from him.
It's absolutely the right play based on what we know. Based on what Mikan knows, I think it's more of a safety play. You just in case this has the progression, you assume your opponent is going to have it, and you're just catching up at this point. Even though it's not the most optimal item-wise, but it's going to work out absolutely great for him, and not lose him too much time, because he did Ice Palace and he did Swamp Palace, and this is going to be a quick Trinex kill. So this actually wasn't that big of a hit for Mikan.
Yeah, overall, a little bit of time is getting shaved off here. Now, we'll see where Datlossit decides to head off to next, running around at the speed of sound.
Nice.
He's got places to go. He's got to follow his rainbow. Oh, it looks like we're getting our ped check here. I'm very, very intrigued on what this could be. Just couch cash.
Well, I think Flute was the only thing that could have been there. It couldn't have been Ether if... Well, no, maybe it could have been Ether.
Yeah,
But either way, it's dead.
Yeah. Can be Ether, can be Flute. I mean, it could have been Bugnet, but no one's going to do Pendant Dungeons for that.
Yeah, I don't know why I excluded Ether for half a second there, but I did.
It happens. Right, so where are we going to run off to next? I believe this is going to be the Graveyard Ledge check on Datlossit's side.
Yeah, a lot faster than when Mikan did it, having those boots.
Yeah, overall, those just shave off a ton of seconds.
Yes, especially when you're doing things like this, which are just several screen transitions and just straight runs. But no value for either runner at the Graveyard Ledge today. He is looking for Hookshot and Flute. And all of these checks are time that that is good for Mikan, because these are things Mikan has already done.
So overall, left for plays to make on Datlossit's side. I don't really see too much available other than, say, Tower Hera, the Tablets, Desert. Of course, you have that full swamp dive that is doable as well. It looks like we're going to get our Mad Batter check here.
I think we'd see the... I mean, he knows that Hera and Desert are now not required because it's not a pedestal seed. So I think that the swamp play makes sense. That's 6 items plus the crystal. After that, then we're going to have to dip into at least pendant areas. Hera's nice because you can combo it with Ether and Spike Eve. Desert's nice because you can combo it with Agena, the Bombos Tablet, and the Green Pendant. So both have their values.
Right, exactly. And Mikan looking pretty excited to find that bow there.
Yeah, that bunny did a little dance. This looks like Swamp Palace to me from Datlossit.
Yeah, that is 100% what I can agree on there. Potentially the Bombos check. And Mikan looking like they're going to head off and do the Pod Eastern combo.
Yeah, doing Bombos first is a little bit worse for him. It's less likely that he's going to... well, I mean, he's not going to continue into Gena's at this point, based on where he left his portal. If he did this... What the heck?
The exact opposite. Whoa my.
He left his portal on the ledge.
This is the desert play.
This is the desert play. Wow.
I feel this is just strictly on wanting to go mode swamp.
Yeah, he tricked us into thinking this was a swamp play.
Very much so. That looked 100% like going for swamp. But here we go.
And-
Maybe we'll find our flute.
And no, chat. I didn't forget that he had the hook shot. I thought he was going to gamble that hook shot was in swamp.
Right. With them not having that information, it could be anywhere. I'm actually really glad that he's doing desert before the Aegina check. Because if you find hookshot there in Aegina, I think that would stop you from coming in desert here. You would just go right off for swamp.
I 100% agree with you on that. And normally, I think Aegina, you kind of, you do last. If you clear desert when you're walking out, you just hop down and do Aegina, and then you can save and quit and avoid having to walk back out of it. So that's kind of the standard desert route, I think.
All right, will we get our second item here, or are we gonna have to fight a land bolas?
Ooh,
oh,
wow! No!
So that'll lead Datlossit over to the mire area. So
Yeah.
I see a full clear mire in the future, as well as Aegina on the way out. So it's still not terrible, but will probably end up full clearing.
Yeah, he'll do Aegina after he does Checkerboard Cave, probably. So it's not so bad. I think that makes perfect sense. You find your second item, it's a progression item. That makes a lot of sense. It's just for my immediate reflex was no, Aegina.
Yeah, exactly. So many locations now open with that flute, pretty much just being that mire area, but a lot of items to be held. And when you're looking for just a hookshot, pretty well needs to be around there somewhere.
Well, we also get to find out here really fast whether this is a Ether Medallion requirement as well. And Quake.
Alright, so we are in no mode.
No mode. That just has to pick up that hook shot and then he's in go mode.
Oh, and a butter sword. Can't complain.
Can't complain when the game forces it upon you by putting it in a chest. Alright, is this Checkerboard Cave Aegina or is this Checkerboard Cave Misery Mire? The boots are one of the two ways you can get in the mire, so he doesn't need the hookshot in order to complete this dungeon.
Right. Now, if you look at where Mikan is, there isn't actually that much separating these two runners. Because of Mikan already having Swamp done, whenever Mikan finishes this combo, I say they're on a very, very even playing field here.
They're pretty close. Datlossit going, he did this in a little weird way so he could keep his portal, but he does get his hook shot, so that's go mode for Datlossit. My question for Mikan is, he's going to get his boots after he does Eastern, so he's going to get both of these crystals. He might remember that Desert was boost locked and head back there, but he also has the item density up at Hera. He has the Pyramid Fairy to do. So there's a couple other options. If he does go directly to Desert, I think it's pretty close. It just depends on how long it takes him to find the flute.
Yeah, I can agree on that side. Of course, Datlossit now having the hookshot in hand is in go mode at 1 hour and 24 minutes. And the Helmsar King there taking 17 hits with the hammer to break the shell. Of course, you could also use 3 bombs, but since Helmsar moves around quite a lot, pretty unlikely.
Pretty nice Mire too from Datlossit. The Popo's got a little bit out of the way, but not bad.
I always find that name very weird to hear.
The Popos.
Yeah. I didn't learn it for so many years after playing this when I was younger. And of course, me wanting the knowledge of what they are, looking it up, and it's like, a Popo, what?
Yeah, I only learned it from learning NMG and learning the Popo damage boost in Eastern. So I had needed a name for it.
Right. Oh, and we get the Godmire. Of course, having either the big key in that chest, or up on the bridge, is what I would classify as Godmire. It's fastest locations, so head right off to Vitreous.
I was debating with Jet the other night about what's the true Godmire. Like, do you check the bridge first and then the right side invisible chest, or do you go invisible chest? And I think the invisible chest is a good first choice because you're going to have to go that way anyway to get the key, and then you check the bridge. But we couldn't come to a conclusion. So I say invisible chest is the real Godmire.
If you were to skip the bridge and find the big key in the invisible chest, I would 100% say that's Godmire. But of course, if you check the bridge first and that happens to be the big key, then that's Godmire, because then you don't have to get damaged by the spikes, etc., and you just pick up the key and go. Overall, it's however you look at it. It's whichever you choose.
So it's Godmire if the key is in the first chest you pick, regardless of what the first chest is.
Yeah, it'll be one of those two chests. I don't think you're gonna run off and do one of the other locations first.
That would be less likely, I think. I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Right. So Mire pretty much completed already at Vitreous, and with Silver Arrows, very, very fast fight.
Yeah, Datlossit did hit the crystal switch and lock himself in there for a minute. That's always fun when that happens.
And just like that, Vitreous goes down.
No, blink on you, miss it pun.
No, I've said it twice already. This seed. I mean, this is the perfect boss to say it on, but I'm not going to give you that feel-good moment. All right, off to Swamp. Now, I wonder, what is faster there, to mirror and flute, or to just save and quit?
I think the save and quit.
I suppose you'd have a couple menus as well, so...
I think the save and quit might be slightly faster, but the mirror and flute would keep your full health, though, so that's probably better.
Yeah. Of course, it is just Swamp. I don't feel too much damage is going to come out anyways, but at the same time, I like health.
Swamp is an easy dungeon. You got red mail, and there's some anti-fairies in here.
I always love when people mash like the mirror or the book in places they can't use it, and all you just hear is eh.
Mikan has his boots now.
Right, so the only thing stopping them from go mode is that flute located in desert. And depending where they check after here would really depend on, like, if they decide to do, like, the overworld locations first or go desert or Hera.
I think that the Pyramid Fairy, he's already done Pyramid, so there's only 2 locations there instead of the 3 that Datlossit has. As far as item density, the 2 in Hera, this Ether Tablet and Spike Cave, is probably like the best place to go, but without the flute, he can't really get over to desert quickly either.
Yeah, that's very true. So, of course, with only having the one item there and one on green pendant, when you have options to go elsewhere first, and some of them being very close to a save and quit location, you'd almost feel more inclined to go there.
Yeah, I would not at all be surprised if we see the Death Mountain checks first. It's not gonna cost him. It's only gonna cost him, a minute and a half or so. But if he does go to desert first and picks up the flute immediately, with the location of the Big Key and Mire, that's going to be a very quick dungeon, and they are going to be very close together.
Yeah, very true. An insanely easy Armless Knights fight there with having silver arrows in hand.
Absolutely. Datlossit heading in there right now to pick up his 7th crystal, though. No doubt that he's, at least a mire ahead, plus the time it takes to find the flute and activate it, and all of that. So it looks like Bonkrock King's Tomb first. That makes sense too. Very fast locations.
Right. So all depends on when they head back to the desert area.
And I love seeing the Post-Strath Argus Zero Cycle. So much fun to see.
That makes it a very, very fast boss indeed.
I have absolutely no idea how to do that. I've heard it explained. I still can't do it.
It's something
so
to
cool
do
watch
with
that.
holding the sword out and dashing. I cannot do it because I'll end up poking one of the puffballs, and all of a sudden it's all ruined, and I'm mashing buttons and not doing anything anymore.
Yeah, I've heard other people explain it as, you do an item dash and then you can stay in that state. I haven't been able to figure it out, but it's probably one of the coolest boss fights to watch when people know how to do it well.
Oh, 7 crystals. We have a game to play.
Bot's not working though, I think.
Is it down?
Yeah, it's dead.
Down. Unfortunate. I guess we can play off of the honor system. Of course, I don't think I'm going to search through 100 messages, but between 1 and 22, if you'd like to play along, you can play off honor system. Oh, it worked that time. Interesting. Okay, so I guess you can get him in again, now that the bot is now on.
Well, tear's just magic.
It's the magical tear touch.
My guess for this particular seed, I'm gonna say the Ice Armor's chests. How about you?
I normally go with 7, but I feel I want to go lower. So I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna go 2.
Very generous today.
Right. I don't know. Overall, the seed has ran him around quite a lot, but now entering Ganon's Tower at 133.50, I feel it's gonna be generous. I don't know. We'll see.
And we have Mikan entering Desert Palace at the exact same time, so he's on the right track to pick up his flute and also be in go mode.
And the unfortunate side with picking a low number, you find out you're wrong very shortly.
Well, there's a good chance you're going to be wrong, whatever you pick, so it's good to get it out of the way early.
Alright, so normally my number 7 would be the last chest in this room. It's 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chest 8 will be here. And Mikan activating that flute will be heading off for Meyer very shortly.
Yeah, he's got to feel good about finding that. Hour 35 doesn't feel like too long, but he's had quite the run around this game, so he probably doesn't feel super confident about his position.
Right, and that was chest number 9. So, not a super long basement, but overall very fast. And off to the gauntlet we go. Someone in chat pointing out, if you were to combine both of my normal guesses, I am right.
So, I'm not even gonna. I don't know how to even say that name. Like OTA Qtom. You know who you know who you are. Congratulations, you know who you are.
Otaku Tom. I'm pretty sure I got it right, but congrats. Closest supporter with guessing 8. I look away for 2 seconds and the gauntlet's over. Datlossit making very quick work. And everyone gets to hear the lovely beep strats. Oh, that last landmola's making a quick hop in the other direction. Alright, Mikan now heading off for Vitreous here. And only a few more rooms left for Datlossit before the Moldorm refight. Of course, without fighting the first time. I guess not technically a refight. Of course, when you have everything in hand, no need to check any chests up here as well. But always nice to get a nice little health refill here.
Careful to avoid that Moldorm. Very quick kill with Butter Sword.
Right, and Mikan now going to be heading up to Ganon's tower. Datlossit using a bomb to explode Moldorm's possessions. Oh, narrowly missing that double there. That's interesting. So, if you hit Aghanim, apparently that one, like, stopped him from shooting, which is weird. But overall, 6 hits done.
Yeah, there's a couple different Aga 2 strats. You can do things that will prevent him from getting knocked back. You can time the triples so they don't accidentally count as doubles. I follow that all into the advanced strats that are beyond me, beyond worth knowing at this point.
Right. I would definitely say that's how I do it myself. I attack, and that's all I know. Of course, sometimes spinning is more optimal than slashing, or vice versa, so learning that myself. But Ganon with his midnight snacks, and we'll see a very quick fight here, I'm sure, with having Butter Sword in hand. Well, a very nice location to have Ganon be as well, abusing the torch there, with bonking yourself into it.
Yeah, nice positioning. I think the top right is probably the best position you can get for phase 2. But with Butter, any position is basically going to be a 1 cycle.
Yeah, and I mean, halfway through phase 3 already.
Yeah, and despite the issues that Mikan had this race, not that far behind at all. You know, already done 2 chests in GT.
Yeah, overall, that double dip in TR didn't make for that large of a time difference. But overall, that Ganon fight, absolutely incredible. Getting a triple in before the torches even went out. And then a quick light and gets the 4th shot.
Absolutely. Nice fight. And that does give him a time of 1 hour, 42 minutes, 10 seconds. Just a few minutes here while we message him and see if he's available.
Overall, insanely fast Ganon fight. Very incredible to see. I think the only thing that would have topped it off is if you got the torch glitch too, but at the same time, when the fight ends, I don't think a torch glitch matters.
So we're joined by Datlossit now. Mikan also has looks like he's forfeited the race at this point. So GG to both runners, and welcome Datlossit.
Hey.
GG and congrats.
Yeah, thank you very much. That seed was kind of interesting. Like, it felt that there was like 2 completely different routes you could have taken. Like, you could have rushed to Skullwoods and then followed by Thieves Town, which led you straight to the Minutes, and if you keep up Thieves Town, that would have knocked you the Ice Rod and then eventually Quake. Or you could have doubled to the Eastern Palace, get the book and boots, go straight into the desert, get hookshot when you get and flew.
Yeah, overall, both of you choosing fairly different routes in this seed, going those 2 opposite directions.
When I saw that hookshot and flute though, that was kind of the moment I felt behind, because at that point, he could have had boots right at the start, and along with so much mobility because of the flute. And I was bootless and flutless pretty much the entire race until like an hour 15 in after clearing Tarok as the darkness. So I ended up falling behind at the point. I just ended up falling behind. So because of nerves, I ended up screwing up DT quite a bit. I was not happy with those fights. Land Mode 2 was pretty bad. So was Aghanim 2. Again, I felt it could have gone much worse. But overall, I felt, because I felt behind at that point, if there was any chance of me winning this, it was because of that Ice Rod.
And you were right.
Joined by Mikan. Welcome, Mikan. And indeed, that double TR was quite a troll.
Well, I made intentionally bad decisions that I wouldn't make because I knew my execution wasn't as good as Dat's, so I went up to Death Mountain right away, which I wouldn't have done. I definitely would have done Skull Woods and the Southern Dark World loop first, and that would have gotten me mitts. So I could have done all of Death Mountain in one kind of loop there, and I guess I don't know if I would have gotten Ice Rod actually. I don't know if I would have gone into Pinnet TT, so I might have ended up double dipping Turtle Rock anyway, but who knows?
I opted to explore more of Thieves Town because I only found 2 items in the front, so I didn't take a chance and opted to like go further in. Even after I found an Ice Rod, just in case Pestle was quiet for some reason, I just delivered Brian to the boss room and I just left with a mirror.
Nice. Yeah, I made some really poor decisions early on. I mean, but a lot of it was on purpose. I mean, it's easy to say that, oh, I did bad on purpose. But no, I definitely did things I wouldn't have normally done, especially around getting Dark World access immediately. Like, I went up to Pure Bin Catfish as soon as I did Hype Cave, because I had enough rupees to do Zora as well. And I
We were
figured-
actually going to ask you if finding that 300 rupees there is what persuaded you in heading that way.
Yeah, it really did. Because I guessed that probably wouldn't have been somewhere that went right away, especially getting Flipper so early. Probably checked everything except Zora, so that would have been a really low probability place to go check later on.
And you were correct. I did not check Zora because I didn't have the money. After I
It
saw
was
the,
the-
fer- I saw, after I saw the ferry boat on the ledge, I just left.
I did
didn't
too,
check.
but it was if you're curious, Zora had the 10 bombs, so you missed out on that.
Yeah, I eventually paid him and got ripped off. I ended up checking Catfish extremely late and the mushroom. The mushroom was in Skullwoods, and I didn't check that for ages. I also had a chance to do fake powder, but I was setting up going into Ice Pass, and if I fake powdered, I would not have the magic to go into Ice, so I ended up skipping it. I just hope it was not anything later or I found powder later.
The hook shot there was the go mode item for Datlossit, and then and of course Mikan, you picked that really early. I have a question for you, Mikan, based on your routing. Really interesting. The bow was kind of in the worst possible spot for you, given the early TR check. I'm really curious what made you decide to head back to Thieves Town. Looked like you were going to dip in the pot in Eastern, and it was really great that you did what you did.
I was convinced that I needed to not do that because that would have been obvious to go check those. As soon as I got the book, I figured I need to be elsewhere right now because if I go into pot in Eastern and there's something there, I already felt behind because of the Turtle Rock situation. I figured that I would have lost anyway if I went and checked and there was something there, so I went and did something else, if that makes sense.
Definitely understandable there. I mean, when that sits in the back of your mind that you've already had to make a double dip, or will be making a double dip soon, whenever that ice rod shows, when you're poised with an option of going into a dungeon without the item to finish, I can definitely agree with moving on to something else first.
That's why I went back to Trinex immediately after finding the ice rod. It's like, this needs to be something or I've lost.
Understandable.
Which was
Yeah.
the bow, which was cool and all, and then the boots in Eastern Palace, which I guess we both found super late.
Yep, I didn't find boots until I think about hour 15 in, if not 120. I got them extremely late along with the book. Before I went to Desert, I opted to check the pedestal, just in case I had to go back and finish Hera, because I skipped the Tower Hera as soon as I saw the basement was required to focus on Hera,
Yep.
and that just failed.
That's what I did too. I checked the boot locked things, and then I went and checked the pedestal, and then I went to Desert and got the flute like immediately after finding the boots and finishing Eastern.
I kind of lost time because I opted to go straight into Desert Palace first and did not check Agamus. But as soon as I saw that flute, I said, screw it, I'm not doing the green pendant. I'm going to save the quit and go straight for Maya. And eventually I routed doing Overworld Maya to find the hook shot, so I kind of wasted some time there.
As soon as I got the mitts in the village area, I just kind of routed down to the the purple chest. Even though I didn't have the book at that point, I just went ahead and did all that because I mean, at that point I had already been. Oh wait, no, I hadn't been Turtle Rock. That wouldn't make sense. I don't know what I was thinking, but I went ahead and went all the way and did the purple chest. And I figured, well, I'm down here. I might as well check out the cave while I'm here. And honestly, I probably should have gone to Swamp Palace right then instead of going up to Turtle Rock. But whatever.
Yeah, I didn't check it off the purple chest because I still had high kick to do, so I skipped it for now.
Oh, I see.
And I have a sheer hatred for going into Swamp Wow Hookshot. I never dive it unless it's literally my ass option, so I just completely skipping that as well.
Well, I'm surprised it was as close as it was, considering the Turtle Rock mishap. So I guess I can be happy about that.
Yeah, I understand you have to make these risky decisions. Like, when you're up against someone that's a really tough opponent, you just have the mindset that you have to make these gambles to have any chance. It happens. Like, having a few other opponents. I completely understand your decisions. They may seem stupid, but in your mindset, it was your only chance, and I understand that.
Yep.
Right. Now, in a match that only shows execution and skill, because both of you are moving on to brackets, and congratulations on that part. Do either of you have any hopes for brackets at all?
My hopes for the tournament have already been reached. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go down like a chump in brackets, and that's pretty okay because I'm fine with where I am right now. Just aiming high.
Same here as well. My goal in general was just to reach the brackets. At this point, I'm expecting to get absolutely destroyed.
Well, you guys made it farther than most people, so getting the brackets, that is an accomplishment right there. And getting the brackets with some room to spare too. I mean, this was just an exhibition match essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. It was free for all. I thought about going for a particular strat I've been mentioning a lot on Ganon, but my nerves were just too much and I just bailed out going for it. I was just gonna wait out going for this strat.
Overall, your Ganon fight was pretty impressive for the phase 4 of it, getting a triple and then a quick light and getting a 4-shot in there.
Yeah, Ganon's probably by far my most grinded out boss fight than any others. I probably easily put in hundreds of hours into him with any sort of weapon. Master Sword, Temper Sword, Silverless, all sorts of things.
Definitely looks well practiced. Do either of you have any final thoughts on this seed as a whole?
It felt really... I mean, this is really easy to say, but it felt simple once I knew where everything was. like if I had gone into Thieves Town at the start, I mean, that was just about it, right? I mean, everything else would have came
pretty much
quickly.
Yeah, it wasn't not really any totally iron locations. It was pretty straightforward as long as you did not skip Thieves Town.
Well, on that note, then, I will wrap things up by thanking both of you guys again, Datlossit and Mikan, for joining us for the interview and for putting on this wonderfully enjoyable exhibition match. Ended up being very close, despite all the divergences. Unfortunately, the bots are down, but you guys can go ahead and look up both of the runners on their Twitch channels and give them their well-deserved follows. Looking at the schedule here, we have a race on ALTTP Randomizer 1 between Strumpet Playa and Boss Crab that started 10 minutes ago. And then the next new race is at 4 o'clock. It's 50 minutes from now on Speed Gaming for Troopster versus Patty. On that note, I'll thank the Speed Gaming staff for doing the restream. Our wonderful tracker, Zelda, and my co-commentator, Chris Aether. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful time.
Good afternoon, guys.